Yeah, hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Monster TV, Episode 1. I'm your host, James C. Harris, here to dive into the rich and wonderful world of the UK NFL fans' monster football game. And I can hear you asking, what is the monster? Well, most of you probably aren't asking because I'm not imagining too many people who don't play are watching this, but we're hoping one day you will, and you'll want to know where it all started. So we're going to take you to our very own Commissioner, Paddy, is joining us today to run us through a bit of the history of the monster. Now, Paddy, how are you?
Good, social. Good to be on the inaugural episode of Monster TV. How's it going?
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, wouldn't be able to do it without you. So I thought about doing one at the weekend, but if I couldn't get you on, it seemed a bit redundant because, as our fearless leader of the game, we need you on to christen the show.
Making me blush. Cool. Yeah.
My first question for you is, and these are for people who may not know what the game is what exactly is the monster?
Well, the best way to describe it probably is fantasy GM for, the more hardcore style of NFL fan. So players each have total control of a 53-man roster that they have to build by way of drafting players, trading for picks and players, and then deciding which players to keep at the end of the season. But there's no points or weekly lineup submissions or anything like that. We decide the winner by a vote, where players get to say who has the best overall team. But, because it's a 53-man roster, it really gives you a chance to kind of get deep into the weeds and learn a lot about, backup left guards and third string inside linebackers and things of that nature. So, if that sort of thing gets you going, then this is definitely going for you.
Excellent. Yeah, and it does. Yeah, people like your Max Garcias who live in the monster folklore, and maybe during this series we'll get some sort of monster folklore section going where we talk about the backstory of how these guys become the legends. But how long exactly has the monster been going on? Because I think I've been playing for about 10 or 11 years now. But I know it's been going on a bit before I joined.
Yeah, it started in 2006 as a kind of let's just do a massive draft type game. And over the years has evolved to incorporate what I'd say is a pretty solid set of rules now that attempt to toe a line really between pleasing fans of dynasty type drafts where you can keep hold of your team and also redraft fans who like to try again every year. And interestingly, that inaugural season was won by a gentleman by the name of Neil Hornsby, who I'm sure many people now know. Went on to create a little well-known company called Pro Football Focus. And it's been running ever since then.
So yeah, it's because of some big clout. People who winners will. Yeah, they're in good company, and you could put yourself in that category from the controversial 9-game Aaron Rodgers season. I think
somehow, yes, I did manage to win with half a season of Aaron Rodgers. Yes.
I think he did. My argument was he made it back for the playoffs that season anyway. So,
well, my argument is if I can win with half an Aaron Rodgers, then how good was the rest of the team? You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good point. I remember I did have your team number one that year. One of the rare occasions that my first place voters won. Not counting sort of the Matt Ryan seasons, which was not me. Who's the team to beat these days? There's a bit of a dynasty going on, isn't there?
There is a dynasty going on. The current Denver Broncos have won 3 of the past 4 monster drafts now, which is quite an incredible achievement when you think about it, considering this isn't a points-based game and you're relying solely on the opinions of other players. To be able to put a team together year on year that can win 3 out of 4, I'd probably say we won't see that again for some time, unless it's the same player and he wins 4 out of 5.
5, yeah. And we managed to get the great legendary Scott Hansen to announce the winner this year. That was a nice touch to the results night.
Yeah, I mean, you say that like one of us knew him personally and we got hooked up, and we managed to, there was an exchange of money involved. So maybe one day though, maybe we'll get him to host the results night evening one day. That's the goal.
That would be great. And so round 1 has begun today. And at this point, I'd like to welcome in the GM of the Carolina Panthers, Olly. Olly, how are you doing?
Not too bad, Social. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you, mate. You were hoping to have pick number 1 after your team last year was not exactly set up for success. Do you want to tell us where it went wrong there?
Yeah, the voters, that's where it went wrong, apparently. No, I call you bringing up scabs. No. Firstly, this is not the Ollie from the Monster Mash. It's the sort of Danny Murphy Match of the Day 2 equivalent Ollie. But no, where it went wrong for me, I think I picked a too good secondary or something, didn't I? And Mark seemed to love my offensive line, despite it having like 3 people on it that played. So yeah, no, it was what it was. I've in the Andy Dalton train, which is depressing to say out loud.
So you guys, we've seen the draft kicked off over the weekend. There wasn't much in way of surprises with the first 3 or 4 picks, probably similar to what we might see come the actual NFL draft. What stood out for you in round 1? Was there any sort of great value picks, any head scratchers, that's just solid?
I'd say just on the rookie quarterbacks, it's interesting to see, obviously, Jai Waddell, Jaguars GM, traded up to number 3, almost similar to how the 49ers have traded up to number 3 in real life now, and took Justin Fields. But as I think you've been pointing out, Social, there's quite a lot of buzz around Mac Jones to the 49ers in real life. So it'll be quite interesting to see if Jai's landed on the right rookie quarterback. I mean, it's a bit of luck, isn't it? But
that is actually a good point, in that we draft now before the NFL draft. Majority of the sort of high rookies are gone, whereas there was a time, Paddy, wasn't there, when we'd be drafting after the NFL draft, so you'd know where the players were going. So it relies a little bit more on maybe your own college evaluation, which some people claim to have, some people guess, some people look at things other people have said, some people watch a lot of college football and some of us don't. But there is that element to it where you now have to take into consideration, rather than, okay, I know this guy, I'm going to not take Zach Wilson because he's at the Jets. LVC is in a position where he's the second best prospect. It makes sense to take him, but he might end up at the Jets, which is...
Yeah, well, I think the classic example to refer back to there was last year. And just to kind of illustrate how sometimes it goes your way and sometimes it doesn't, was that Jordan Love was the 3rd overall pick last year in a monster draft that was obviously pre-NFL draft. And, ordinarily when you pick up a highly, touted quarterback prospect like that, you'd be thinking, you just got to sit back and wait for him to land a starting job now. And obviously he landed behind Aaron Rodgers. So that's just pure bad luck in that case. But I think one of the reasons we shifted it back to before the NFL draft was it's kind of entertaining in a way, because you don't know what you're going to get, and it does sort of add some mystery and intrigue. And also it means that there's not as big a rush to go and grab all the rookies who have landed in the best places. They are spread out and fairly, well dispersed, because you do sort of have to just buy a lottery ticket and hope for the best to some extent.
And Bernie only gets 5 picks in the first 5 rounds to take.
Yeah. So yeah, you are limited to how many rookies you can have. Sorry.
Yeah. So any picks standing out for you, Paddy? Good ones, bad ones? Well, you can do what's the best, worst? Wish it was mine. And gamble I like. Is that the
big
standard?
Yeah, that's it. I think the draft started off going pretty much as you would expect. There weren't really any standout picks for me, and bad standout picks. I mean, they're all good value picks. I mean, you can argue the merit of taking a quarterback like Trey Lance or Mac Jones, but it makes sense to do so. So I sort of give them a pass, especially when you don't already have a quarterback. And then come the best, the actual best players like Von Miller and Myles Garrett, both the tight ends, Kelsey and Kittle. It's all just kind of fine and ho-hum and boring. I'd say Justin Simmons is the first one that pops off the page as eyebrow raising. That was a bit of a head scratcher, if I'm honest. Yeah, I don't think, we've seen some howlers in the past, but I don't really see anything along those lines.
Yeah, you sort of get the thought that Justin Simmons would be there. Is he even the best available player at his position? Let alone a position to draft it that highly. What would you think about that, Ollie?
Yeah, I thought it was a touch surprise, and I think he's really quite good. He's a good player, obviously, but with what was on the board at the time, it was a bit unexpected, a bit eyebrow raising. I'd say it's probably the most eyebrow raising pick of the first round, along with Drew Lock to the Ravens at 22. That one was very unexpected in my book as well.
He's not highly rated amongst the four, is he, Drew Lock?
I don't think he's highly rated among anyone, is he?
No, I don't think he is. I sort of see some sense in Gordon's strategy there, even though we know Locke is rubbish, and Gordon admitted so himself. But I think that's more of a strategic pick than I need a quarterback, I better take the next best one, because everybody knows he wasn't the next best one.
Yeah, and what sort of position? How many teams are in need of a quarterback still who can now be thinking, I can sit, because no one's, people have moved up to get their quarterbacks. There's a lot of trading for quarterbacks in the off season. You saw like Kyler Murray moved. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but there were more like Andy Dalton, Jimmy Garoppolo, they sort of bridge quarterbacks maybe. But there can't be that many teams who need a quarterback left, and they almost could be happy to sit and take a couple of good players and then still land a Jared Goff or a Ben Roethlisberger theoretically, unless someone just takes one to have two quarterbacks and then will trade it for probably 50 cents of a dollar later. Because I think, in my opinion, if you're trading players you've taken during the draft, you're never getting value for them, because there's never the picks that they would have gone for available, unless you're getting really good players back. And at that point, no one's really doing that because they've built their own team. They're not going to give away their good players.
Yeah, that is true. I don't think there's any team off the top of my head that has a complete glaring hole at quarterback. Obviously, I'm going to ignore rookies, because I think you just have to assume when you take one that they will start at some point and hope for the best. But I think there are a couple of teams with very questionable positions, like the Ravens with Locke, the Bengals with Hurts, although the Eagles seem weirdly into Hurts, which I don't really get. The Steelers with Newton. Ollie, you'll be better placed than me to comment on that, but I think that's a disaster waiting to happen.
We could debate for hours on here between me and you how good he'll play, but I do think he probably will be the week one starter in New England. Now, the one I was going to say is the Chiefs with Jimmy Garoppolo in the monster.
Of course,
that is. Now the 49ers have traded up to 3, although they're given the kind of guff that NFL teams do about, he's going to stay, he's going to play. We're seeing, by week 4 when he breaks his ankle or something, the rookie will take over and Jimmy will be on bench. Yeah, but they're about the only team really. I'd say. What
about because I suppose one who could become a little bit unstuck is the monster 49ers. You've got Bridgewater, who may get replaced, and then if Mac Jones doesn't get the starting job where he goes, you could end up with almost two. You could end up with Bridgewater sitting behind a second rookie, or if they still manage to get some weird Deshaun Watson or trade, which seems to be sort of dead in the water at the moment, but they're aggressively going after him. So he could be struggling there if Mac Jones doesn't get the 49ers job, which I think looks like it might be the case, and that'd be quite a good spot for anyone to. They don't seem to perform badly in that system, and they might not look great, but they always seem to produce a little bit of something.
He could. This is sort of the luck of, like Paddy was talking about, having the monster draft or the rookie draft. There is a scenario where the Panthers take Mac Jones, and he's got Teddy and Mac Jones, and he's got 16 games as a quarterback, and potentially if Jones is good, a quarterback going forward, it's that is the luck of the draw, as they say.
Yeah, it's a bit of for teams who don't have a quarterback going into the monster season, it's often the case. It's a bit of a scattergun approach, and maybe you won't get a nailed-on starter who's a lock to get 16 games, but you get a couple of guys who somehow manage to cobble together 16 games between them, which isn't ideal, but if you don't have a starter, then sometimes it's the best you can do.
Yeah, I said we saw it last year with the Rams. I mean, the dream team of Ryan Fitzpatrick and Nick Mullins combining for a full season, which people might have expected going into the season. There was a couple of defensive players seem to get good value in the draft. I'm just the likes of Stephon Gilmore, Fletcher Cox going down the list. As you say, with all the rookies going at the top, was it five rookie quarterbacks went in the top 6 picks? So those sort of middle round picks, the middle to lower round picks, automatically became a good value and strong players. I mean, Ollie, yourself, you picked up Julio Jones at number 17, which seems a pretty good position for him to go. You must have been pleased with that one.
Yeah, I was pleased. Although my record of wide receivers in the Monster means that he's undoubtedly going to break, or your Matt Ryan prophecy about him being awful will debilitate him. But I was going to say the best kind of, if I had to pick a team who I like, who's done sort of the best work so far, I'd probably say the Monster Dolphins and Rip. And they've come up with Alan Robinson at 14, then they traded up for Marlon Humphrey. And he hasn't, it's been kind of in his whole off season. Rip hasn't really done any trades, I don't think, has he? Not that I can remember anyway.
I think there was
He's got
he was trying to trade Nick Needham. I'm not sure if he actually got rid of him or not.
Oh, right, okay. I don't even really know who Nick Needham is, to be honest. But he's got obviously he's got Lamar at quarterback. Opinions will vary on him, but there's a scenario where he becomes a top 5 quarterback again this year. He's now got Tyler Lockett, Allen Robinson, and Antonio Brown at wide receiver, James Bradbury, Marlon Humphrey at cornerback, and Za'Darius Smith, who he retained for 2 points. I think he's come out of round 1 looking quite strong.
Yeah, you've got a lot of the main positions filled in there.
Definitely.
What was your thoughts on the Fletcher Cox pick, Paddy? Because LVC made it and then seemed to regret it, and they've put him on the block already.
Yeah, I don't really understand that, to be honest. First of all, it's a bit of a strange situation when you immediately regret a pick you just made, because the thing I don't understand is Fletcher Cox is clearly a top, defensive talent. If I was to draw up a list of the best players available in the draft, excluding, not including position or need or anything like that, just purely pound for pound, who is the best, I'd probably have Fletcher Cox in my, if not top 3, then definitely top 5. And I think where he fell at 20 was a bit of a steal, to be honest. I'd be delighted if I landed that pick. So yeah, I can't really see the sense in trying to trade him, but buyer's remorse is a real thing in the Monster, it seems, and we see it every year. But yeah, if I was RVC, I'd be walking away with all smiles after that.
Yeah, and you feel if he is on the block, that someone will be able to get him for a good price, because, as I say, he already fell to number 20, which seemed incredible value, and then there's nothing of that availability left to give up, because we're already on to pick. I know there's been a few picks going since we've been on air, I think. So I think one's about pick 31 now. So the best you can get for him, 31, and obviously like some add-ons, but that's not going to get a player of that caliber. And it just, it does seem a sort of interesting decision. But again, he's won 2 more monsters than me, so who am I to question it? But
it's one of those situations where when that player goes on the block, I would be making inquiries, because if you can get him cheaper than he fell, and he fell for a good price anyway, it's worth asking about, because if LVC feels dead set that he made the wrong decision, then somebody can cash in on that and take advantage of his mistake. Yeah,
and I think someone will, I imagine, make a good trade for him, and they'll probably may have to give up maybe the most thing you give up is a second, and then something else. If you add on picks outside the top sort of picks, then you're basically getting sort of a elite top 2 or 3 player at his position for the price of a guard, almost, like, if you, depending on what you're giving up, which which I think is a good. But he'll be a good guard in the 8th round. Yeah. Anything else that's really drawn to your attention? I don't want to go on too long and bore people too much with obviously, or steal too much thunder from the podcast, which I'm sure you'll be coming back soon with a bit more of a deep dive as we sort of gloss off the top here. But any other thoughts?
This is TV, social TV trumps radio every time. So forget that other guy I do the podcast with. I'll do this now instead.
I was going to. Well, we were on the topic of the other guy you do the podcast with. The gamble of the round has to be Jamar Chase, or Ollie turning into Bernie at pick 24 and taking Jamar Chase, doesn't it, really?
And it's very off-brand for Ollie, who for years has said rookies, they're not worth taking. There's quite a few people who think that way. I've gone both ways before. I've used to take a lot of rookies and didn't do very well. Take less rookies now and have finished better. I don't know if that's a definite correlation between them, or it's just been a bit lucky with other things. But yeah, it's very off-brand for Ollie, who is very much a take the proven player. But
the thing you have to remember is Ollie is, at the end of the day, a massive hypocrite. So it doesn't really matter what he does or what he says, because he reserves the right to go back and do the opposite and say, that's what I meant all along. So
he will change his mind if he thinks he's not one who will stick to their point, even though they know they're wrong. But like certain other people I won't mention. But
just
like sitting with quarterbacks.
we now have to argue make the rookie arguments against the team of Bernie and Ollie, which is quite a daunting task, isn't it?
I really like the pick personally. I think I saw a bit of Jamar Chase. I watched a little bit of LSU 2 years ago. Obviously, he didn't play this year, and they looked him and Jefferson, they looked pretty good. And I think he was regarded quite a higher prospect than Jefferson, who's come out and taken the lead by storm. But it does, again, is that where would he land? I mean, I'm very hopeful that the Dolphins can take him from a personal point of view at 6, which I'm not sure Ollie's a big fan of Tua. And then you're looking at possibly, I don't know, Jared Goff at 7, or where's he go? And the Falcons could take him, but that seems a bit the wrong area for them to go, because they've got Julio Jones and Ridley, and it seemed to be a bit of a luxury, I think, for them. But so I'm not sure.
If he ends up a Lion, if he does end up a Lion, then I think we just have to laugh and say, "Oh well, never mind. Better luck next time."
We could end up back with Joe Burrow, I guess. Is the other.
That'd probably be the ideal, wouldn't it? I guess if he ends up with Joe Burrow, it's definitely. I'm like you, so it's socially. I don't mind the pick. Actually, it's just it is sort of an uncharacteristic gamble from Ollie, especially as he is. He took Myles Garrett at 5 overall. He's got Dak Prescott already. He's probably one of the top 3 favourites as we stand. So I guess it either comes up 6s or not.
What I realised is that he couldn't win either way, because if he picked Jamar Chase or he picked Odell Beckham, then we would have said that he was copying Bernie's strategy either way, because he would have taken a rookie, or he would have started the draft with 2 Browns. So it was a lose-lose situation, really.
I guess that is very true. Maybe Ollie has been... Well, Bernie did finish about 15 places above Ollie last year, didn't he? So maybe he should be listening to it. And with that, I will get you guys out of here. Thanks very much for joining us, and we'll try and get something else out in the next 2 or 3 days, I hope, because we haven't got much else to do. So.
Cheers, Social. Thanks for having me.
Cheers, Social.
Yeah, thanks, guys. And thanks, everyone, for joining us. We will catch you next time on Monster TV.